Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all staying safe and well and alert, as is the new watchword here in England at the moment. We've had a few very small changes to our lockdown. A few people found it confusing at first, but it's basically about using your common sense, I would say. The rules are still much the same. Stay at home and work from home as much as possible. If you must go out, keep your distance from other people. Wash your hands regularly as per usual. Don't touch your face, all that kind of stuff. But we've got a little bit more freedom now. So if we go out, we still have to keep our distance, but we can meet one other member from a different household if we wish to, at a safe distance. We can do as much exercise as we want, keeping our distance from others. Some people are allowed to go back to work as long as there are sufficient safety measures in place. If we use public transport or go to areas where social distancing isn't possible, then face coverings are recommended, that kind of thing basically. But we're keeping a very close eye on how the virus is spreading, so we'll see if these measures have any major detrimental effect or not. So yeah, fingers crossed it won't be too bad, but we just have to see what happens. It's still very unpredictable and we're still at very high risk at the moment. But my mother and I are doing well. Last week I actually went out for the first time in over 5 weeks because we didn't quite get everything we needed in our online delivery. So I had to go out and get milk and a couple of other bits and pieces. But the streets were very quiet, very few people about, very few cars about. It was the priority hour for elderly and disabled people as well. So I was able to get into there without any queues. Social distancing was well enforced with tape on the ground and screens around the tills, things like that. So that worked well. My risk was minimal, so fingers crossed I haven't got anything. It's a bit early to tell still because it can take a few days for anything to take effect, but so far, touch wood, I don't think I've picked anything up. But yeah, I'm well other than that, and I've been keeping myself occupied and amused indoors as per usual, which is what these videos are about, just keeping you up to date with things that I've been enjoying and discovering. As always, there's a blog post to go with this where I go into much more detail and give you much more links. There are links in the description below, of course, and chapter markers, things like that. But in my blog, there's even more detail, more links and some embedded videos and things like that. So go and check that out in addition to this. And don't forget, I also have a lockdown resources page on my blog with loads of links to information and other ways to stay entertained. There's a whole bunch of playlists on this channel as well under the banner of lockdown favourites that I've got various different videos that I've enjoyed all thematically organised in there. So there's plenty for you to check out, but let's crack on with this post. There's various bits and pieces to mention as per usual. None of it is sponsored, all opinions are my own as always, and I hope you enjoy it. So the major event of the week was, of course, VE Day, or Victory in Europe Day, which everybody knows about. I don't need to explain what that is, but it's basically an opportunity for us to show our gratitude for the efforts and the sacrifices that were made for us by everyone who fought and kept the country running during the war and gave up their lives for us, for the freedoms that we still enjoy today. Even in lockdown, things were a lot better than they would have been if things had worked out very differently all those decades ago. So we have a huge debt of gratitude that we can never fully repay, really, to all those people who did so much for us. My granddad was involved in the war. He was in the field hygiene sector. So you don't hear much about the people who are behind the scenes like that. You hear about the soldiers and the pilots and things like that on the front line. But people like my granddad were doing key work behind the scenes. So I'm very proud that a member of my family was involved in the conflict in some way. So I posted a few extracts from his documents on Instagram that we inherited. So they're quite interesting to look through. He's got various notebooks and things as well that he's written things down in. So it's been great to keep that kind of stuff as memories. In terms of celebrations, obviously things were very different to how they were planned to be this year, but on the radio and on TV and online there were various bits going on. So Absolute Radio did a pop-up 40s station for the day, which I dipped in and out of, and there were some nice tunes on there. Another radio station, actually Planet Rock, did Brian May Day that same day as well, which is completely irrelevant, but as a Queen fan I liked the fact that they did that, so I dipped in and out of that a bit as well. In terms of watching things, the BBC did a special show that evening with various music acts as well as other things. So there was a Strictly Come Dancing version of Putting on the Ritz, which was nice and lively, and there were songs like At Last being performed. And Catherine Jenkins performed We'll Meet Again, duetting with old footage of Vera Lynn when she originally performed it, plus footage of members of the public, key workers and just anybody else basically who sent clips in, singing along to it. So it had a real community feel to it, which was the whole idea of VE Day, bringing people together to celebrate. And Catherine Jenkins and Dame Vera Lynn have also released We'll Meet Again as a charity single to raise money for NHS charities together. But my favourite thing of the evening, and Mum's too, was Catherine Jenkins performing in the Royal Albert Hall. She actually did a live stream for half an hour from an empty Royal Albert Hall auditorium, just her and a pianist and a few other instrumentalists who appeared at a safe distance around her throughout, singing classic old songs like Bluebirds Over the White Cliffs of Dover, A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square, that kind of thing. We'll Meet Again, it came up too, again with Dame Vera Lynn, and they finished with Jerusalem being sung with the organ of the Royal Albert Hall playing, which was a really impressive sound. So while it was quite weird seeing her in an empty auditorium and no audience applauding her, it was still very, very good. She's got an amazing voice. That kind of thing just marked VE Day very well. Even though we were restricted, we were still able to mark the occasion in a very suitable way. I didn't watch any theatre shows this week for a change, but I did watch a film instead. So I watched Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, which I bought on Blu-ray. I hadn't seen that when it came out in the cinemas. This was the first time I'd seen it. And it was good, the prequels and sequels were never as good as the original trilogy. I wasn't expecting this to be, and it wasn't anything exceptional, I wouldn't say, but it was still good fun. It was still a good sci-fi action film, as they always are. Lots of great action sequences and special effects, and there's some more thoughtful moments as well, some quite emotional moments, and some good humour in there too. It's proper Star Wars. It's still, in keeping with the whole series, and it was kind of a nice ending to the saga, really. So that was good, and it was great to see Luke Skywalker and Han Solo make an appearance. They had to, really, didn't they? Because it was the final film, so it was nice that they could be involved in some way. And it was very impressive how they integrated footage of Princess Leia as well, because obviously Carrie Fisher had very sadly died before the movie was made, but they had unused footage of her from a previous movie that they were able to kind of write scenes around and put her in that way. So that was very well edited in. That was very good. It was a very nice tribute to her. So yeah, overall it's a good film. And I turned on the audio description as well, because with films like this there can often be scenes that are dark or fast moving, things like that, that are very hard to keep track of when you can't see properly. So that was very useful, because it did fill in details that I would have otherwise missed or not fully understood. So I'm glad I did that. And the describer, Martin Billany, was very good at narrating too, because he's not just a monotone describer. He injects a bit of emotion in there too. There's urgency and drama in there when there needs to be, and things like that. So I'm very glad that option was available and that I was able to turn it on and enjoy the film even more that way. And then in terms of extras, there is a fantastic 2-hour documentary to watch, which goes into great detail about the making of the film. There was interviews with various people involved with it, including the cast, of course. And there are also bits of footage from the original films as well to bring the story to a close, to kind of bookend everything. So that was really nice. And then there are about 40 minutes of additional featurettes going into more detail on specific things like the speeder chase and the Dio droid, and Warwick Davis and his son were also featured too. So it's a nice collection of bonus material for a nice film. I'm glad I got that to complete the collection. And then the other Blu-ray I got this past week was the Steelbook edition of Doctor Who Series 12. I like getting the Steelbooks because I like the artwork on them. They always look really nice, and they just feel a bit more special than your standard Blu-ray. So they're worth paying a little bit extra for. Not a lot, but a little bit extra for. And yeah, I really enjoyed Series 12. I thought Series 11 was good, but it was all about kind of finding their feet, getting them and the audience used to, a new showrunner, a new doctor, a female doctor, and the new companions and everything. There was a lot to adjust to, but it was still a good series. But Series 12 was a real step up. There's a lot more confidence there. There were big 2-part stories. There's a big story arc as well. Captain Jack made a nice cameo appearance. I hope he reappears again in the future. And yeah, it was just really exciting, really fun, as Doctor Who is. So yeah, I'm glad I've got that to complete my collection. There's also the Resolution special from New Year in 2019 included in the set, which I know it would be because they always include the most recent Christmas or New Year special in the next available series box set to keep everything nicely organised together. So I'm glad that's in there as expected. And there are extra features on there as well. There's audio commentaries, there's 3 of those. There are various closer look featurettes looking behind the scenes of each episode. They're only ever short featurettes though, and there are a few other little bits and pieces too. So you don't get as many extras as you used to in the old days, but at least you get something. So yeah, it's a nice set as usual. It's nice to have that on the shelf with all the others. We are going to get a Christmas special this year because that's already been filmed, but obviously Series 13 is now going to be delayed. So I'll probably save Series 12 to watch that at a later date because it's only just been on the TV anyway. It's still quite fresh in my mind. So it'd be nice to save that until later. And I'm also kind of thinking, well, if this lockdown is going to go on for a while, as it probably will to some degree or another, then it might be a nice opportunity to go back to the Eccleston days and just start the modern series, fresh, work my way through them from the beginning, and perhaps do a full review of each box set for my blog then, doing the whole lot in order, which would be nice to do. Even if it's only me that's interested in it, it'd be nice to have kind of complete set of reviews of the box sets and the soundtracks as well, because I like the music of the show too. And there is a Series 12 soundtrack available that came out in April. So yeah, I'm glad I've got that latest series to complete my collection to date. And then moving on to comedy series, and I'm delighted that The Last Leg is back in a series called Locked Down Under, and because obviously Adam is stuck in Australia now, he's at his home in Melbourne, while Josh and Alex are at their homes in England. So they brought them all together live across the globe, and it worked very well. I thought it was very effective. There are very few technical issues really, and it worked well. The comedy's still there. They're thoughtful analysis of what's going on is still there. They had good guests like Rob Beckett and Miriam Margolyes and Alex Horn with the horn section. So it worked very well. It's a 4-part series, 4-hour-long editions at the moment. But hopefully, if that goes well, then they'll do more in that format for as long as they have to. And then it'll be nice to see him back in the studio again at a later date. And then on a similar note, Russell Howard's Home Time has also been a good series. That's now finished after its 9-episode run, but hopefully that will come back at some point as the situation continues. I enjoyed his analysis on what was going on. He had some serious opinions, but also funny opinions as well. And he had some funny videos he'd found online too, some of which I'd seen before, some of which I hadn't, because I keep a close eye on social media too, of course. I also enjoyed the comedians he interviewed as well, and there are also some key workers he spoke to and people doing very, very good work, either for charity or supporting vulnerable people, things like that. The music guests I wasn't so bothered about, so there were bits of the shows that I did skip through, usually the musical guests, occasionally 1 or 2 others as well. But, on the whole, it was a good series. It's nice to have his comedy around as well. And then if you're a big fan of Russell Howard, then you can also enter a prize draw to win a video call with him. It's in support of the charity Bernardo's, the children's charity, so it's an excellent cause. They obviously need a lot of help at the moment. And you basically pay as many times as you want. You can have as many entries as you like to increase your chances. And also on that same site, you can enter prize draws to win a chat with people like Catherine Tate and Emma Thompson and 1 or 2 other people. So it's worth a look if you want to perhaps raise a bit of money and perhaps talk to one of your favourite celebrities as well. I'll put a link in the description below so you can check that out. We also finally had another new edition of QIXL this week. That's the extended editions of QI that they put on. It was a fun edition as usual. Aisling B, Nish Kumar and David Mitchell were the guests. And there was also a surprise appearance by the continuity announcer when he coughed over the episode at one point. I don't quite know why he managed to hit the wrong button and do that, but there you are. I suppose we've noticed coughing more than ever at the moment. And then in terms of more bite-sized humour, like clips and sketches, things like that, the YouTube algorithm threw up a lady this week for myself and various other people called Julie Nolke, and she's become very, very popular very recently because she did a sketch where she explained the pandemic to her past self. And that was very funny, it was very good, and you soon get absorbed into her other clips as well because she writes and acts in and edits her own sketches, and she's done loads of these over the years. She's only just come to notice those. There's a lot of material to dig back through, and she's still making new sketches every week now. And she is a professional actress, so she often plays multiple characters in the one sketch, each of which is very distinctive as well. So you really do think that they're all different characters. And she does get her friends involved sometimes as well. It's not always just her in the videos, but even when it is just her, it's very, very effective. It's kind of often very understated humour. There's nothing over the top there, but it's very much downplayed as if it's natural behaviour, and it's very awkward situations as well that get represented and things like that. And yeah, she's just really, really good. There's just something about her clips that are really absorbing and really funny. So I recommend checking out Julie Nolke. And then Jay Foreman has posted another video in his series called Unfinished London, where he gives you lots of facts and information about London, but with his very silly brand of humour as well. So it's fun and educational all at the same time. And this time he's asking the question, what is wrong with London's boroughs? And it's a very entertaining video again, as per usual. The editing that goes into those must take ages because of how much he films in all sorts of different places and all the different kind of graphical elements he puts in and all sorts. It's very, very well put together, and as I say, very interesting as well. And then the other video that I found really funny this week are the outtakes from Afterlife 2. I reviewed this Ricky Gervais series a couple of weeks ago. I really enjoyed that on Netflix, but the outtakes are hilarious. They're not safe for work. They're very much in that category, and there's a lot of adult humour involved, a lot of strong language, but if you don't mind that, they are hilarious. I've never laughed so much at a gag reel for ages. It is just fantastic. I think it's Ricky's laugh that does it for me. There's something about his laugh that just cracks me up, and everybody else, on the set with him at the time is also just laughing as a result. It's a really great atmosphere, you can tell when they're filming that show. And then moving on to music, and there are various bits and pieces to mention. In particular, the big thing this week for me was that I wrote a trilogy of posts about Kerry Ellis. So in the first couple of posts, I wrote about all her previous releases, reviewing her previous albums, anthems that she did with Brian May, the Candlelight concerts that she did with him. So there's an album and a Blu-ray for those, which is fantastic. They're brilliant live shows. The Kerry Ellis self-titled album she did as a solo project without him, although he did appear on one of the tracks still. And then the Golden Days album that she and Brian did together. This year, she's got a new album out. It was only going to be available at her shows when she was on tour this year. They were the only copies going to be distributed. But because she's not on tour, she's now selling them via a website online instead. So it's called Feels Like Home. This isn't paid again. This isn't sponsored or anything. I bought this with my own money. And yeah, she signed it as well. All the copies she's selling are signed, which is brilliant. That feels really, really special to have that. There are no plans to put this on streaming services or for mainstream sale. She only ever wanted to sell these as a very special thing. She might change her mind in the future, but for now, this is a very special limited edition. So get on her website quick if you want to get one of these, because I don't know how many copies she's got left. But it's a brilliant album. There are fantastic versions of Your Song, Who Wants to Live Forever, Ticket to Ride, A Million Dreams, Shallow, Feels Like Home, She Used to Be Mine, Feed the Birds, When You Believe, and Into the Unknown. It's a great selection of tracks. In terms of favourite tracks, it's hard to choose, but I would say that Who Wants to Live Forever is fantastic, because as a Queen fan, I think she did a fantastic job with that. A Million Dreams is a brilliant track, a really uplifting track. And there's also a charity single she released of that a couple of years ago for Childline with a huge choir of young people, and it sounds amazing. That's not the version on here, this is just Kerry, but look up the Childline charity video as well for A Million Dreams. It's brilliant. Into the Unknown at the end of the album is a wonderfully upbeat track as well. It's really, really catchy. It's like a rock song. But the title track, Feels Like Home, is also great as well. Your Song is a very interesting interpretation, as is Ticket to Ride. That sounds very different to the Beatles version, but it's very, very good. If anything, it's how the song ought to be sung when you kind of look at the lyrics in a strange way. But the Beatles version is still better, but Kerry's version is good still. And yeah, I mean, the whole album is just really, really good. So I'm very glad I got that. Kerry's been promoting it heavily on her Instagram as well. She does a lot of live streams on there, which are archived on YouTube as well. A lady called Amanda Campbell's got them on her channel, which is good. So I've been watching some of them, catching up with them. There are some Facebook live streams in there as well with Q&As too. So it's great that we can catch up with them. Kerry sings some songs from the album and from other bits of her repertoire as well. And she chats to the fans. Some of them have even got on camera with her. And she chats to various music stars as well that she gets on with. As she is now doing a new podcast as well, Keep Calm and Carry On, which I haven't listened to yet, but I'm looking forward to giving that a go, seeing what that's like. And she's also got a fan club as well that she's opened up. There's an official fan club website you can join to find out what she's getting up to. So she's doing really well. She's keeping herself very, very busy at the moment. And that's on top of looking after her kids as well. She's got to homeschool her children too, and look after her husband and things. So she's really keeping herself very busy. So yeah, the new album by Kerry Ellis, I highly recommend. And actually, Kerry also appears in another video I came across this week by the choir project MCR, who are based in Manchester. And she, along with poet Tony Walsh, joins the group to perform a version of Fix You by Coldplay, which is really, really nice. And there's another video on that channel of the group without Kerry and Tony performing a version of Lean On Me by the late, great Bill Withers, who passed away at the end of March. So there are a couple of nice videos to look at. And talking of the sad passing of music stars, we had the loss of Little Richard this past week as well. Despite the name, Little Richard was a massive rock and roll legend, a big influence on many people, so it was very sad to hear of his passing this week. And then in terms of other music, Matt Lucas is still doing duets with people for his song Thank You Baked Potato. That's been a very successful charity single. If you haven't heard it yet, go and look it up. It's fun and silly and entertaining, based on a song he used to do in Shooting Stars, the comedy series. But he's still doing duets with all sorts of people. So Gary Barlow and Jason Manford were involved this past week, for example. And Bojangles have done like a violin version, and he's done it with choirs and orchestras and all sorts. So it's worth digging through his channel to see all the different versions he's done. It's quite fun. And then it's also been great to see more and more famous singers and bands coming out with lockdown performances to keep us entertained, because it probably helps to keep them sane as well if they can perform in some way at least. So, for example, this past week we've had Crowded House doing a couple of songs, including Don't Dream It's Over. The Doobie Brothers performed Blackwater in aid of Feeding America, and I've never heard the Blackwater track before, but it's very catchy, it's good fun. And then Sheryl Crow has been performing a few songs with her band as well, including All I Want to Do and a couple of other hits as well. So I recommend following channels like that as you find videos, because as you watch them and like them and subscribe to them, YouTube tends to recommend other things as well in a similar vein that pop up. So it's amazing what you discover through the algorithm as you train YouTube in the kind of things you like. Then there's a channel I found called Jelsey Laurie, and on this channel there are videos of a father and daughter recreating various songs from films. So they're lip syncing to the songs, but also doing the actions and putting on the costumes and things like that as well. And they're putting like a picture of the film in the corner of the screen so you can see how closely they're matching up, and it's very, very impressive what they're doing. So you've got things like A Spoonful of Sugar from Mary Poppins, Day-O from Beetlejuice, there's Cabin Fever, and my favourite, The Time Warp from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's really, really good. The attention to detail is magnificent. And then finally, just to finish on a Queen note, because I like any excuse to squeeze them in, of course, being a big fan of the band, there's been a nice version of The Show Must Go On performed by a group called City Rocks Hungary that I can recommend. And also I can recommend the Finding Freddie podcast that's finally finished after 10 episodes. which is a shame because they could do so many more talking about him, but hopefully they will at some point if they know how popular this has been. But basically it's a series of interviews with people who were closely involved with Freddie during his lifetime, talking about the videos he filmed and the songs he recorded and the Barcelona album he did with Montserrat Caballé and the parties he held, the extravagant parties that look amazing. So it's a really interesting series of short videos. They're well worth watching, and I hope, as I say, they'll do more at some point. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have to mention for this week. I hope you found that interesting and enjoyable as per usual. Always amazes me how long these lists get when I add to them bit by bit each day. So I hope there was something in there that you enjoyed and found interesting and want to check out. And overall, I hope you're, as I say, taking care of yourselves and staying safe and well and getting any support you need and so on. And thank you if you're a healthcare worker or a key worker who's helping to keep us safe and keep the country running and so on. It's always much appreciated. But yeah, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe as per usual. Don't forget to check out my lockdown resources and the playlists for other things you might enjoy. And I will see you for another video very soon. Take care. Bye.